Spell it?
Yep.
John, John, Twerdok, Twerdok.
Okay. And how old are you?
How old am I? Well, I'm the young guy yet. I'm only 91.
Okay, and where were you born?
I was born right here in Butler, just down over the hill. Lindora, PA.
Okay. And can you start by telling me a little bit about growing up in Butler, Lindora area?
Butler, Lindora area? Well, I grew up down, just down the hill from me here, down on Coolidge Street. That's where I was born. Bradenville, they call it. And I had my family. I had 3 daughters.
Your family?
My family, no. My family, I had.
Your parents immigrated over from Russia.
Yeah.
And he was one of 10.
They came from the Ukraine. My mom and dad. And my family lived down there where she says Bradenville, and we lived there for quite a few years.
He had 12 children in the family originally?
Yeah. Well, 10. We had 10
children.
Yeah.
And they owned a farm. This property here was actually the edge of this whole farm homestead, and they farmed. And his dad worked at Pullman.
Where we're sitting right now is our cow pasture. We used to take the cow up here, and
Okay. And when and why did you join the Navy?
The reason I joined the Navy is because I was getting close to them taking me and putting me in the Army, and I didn't want to be in the Army. I wanted to be in the Navy. So I enlisted in the Navy.
And what was the reason for that preference of the Navy over the Army?
Because I sort of wanted to be. I favored the Navy. I like ships, and I wanted to be on ships, and I didn't want to be out there fighting a war out there with ground troops and that. If I was going to go, I'm going to dive into the water before I dive into trouble. And the war was almost over, and so I joined the Navy, and when I first joined the Navy, I was going in on a buddy system. I had a friend that we were buddies, and we were going in together. And I put a monkey wrench into it because it wasn't my fault, but sort of my fault. My birth certificate was written in Ukrainian, and the Navy, they wanted it redone. So I had to, when me and my buddy went down to Pittsburgh, I had my birth certificate, but nobody could read it. I had to get it changed over to American. And in the meantime, we were going to get transferred from Pittsburgh, and we're heading for up in we were heading into the Navy up in Great Lakes, Illinois. But they wouldn't take me because my birth certificate was not.
He just had a church birth certificate
I had to
written
get
by the midwives because he was born at home. So he had to get it.
So
redone.
I had to get my paperwork done, and then my buddy says, "Well, I'm already gone. I'm not waiting." So he left, and he went. He went with the rest of his crew, and I was left behind. So I didn't go on the buddy system. I went on my own system.
Okay. So once you were fix your birth certificate, and
I got my certificate and everything. They took me in. So my buddy wasn't too happy, but he didn't want to wait. So
can you tell me what basic training was like?
Basic training was it was up in Chicago, up in and we was over in a naval base up in that area, and when I went in, I met a lot of good guys over there, and I was one of the crew.
And how long was it before you were sent to Bikini Island?
Well, when I was in the Navy, I spent after I graduated into the Navy, into what they call it,
Basic training.
Basic training.
Yeah.
I ended up going all the way to the West Coast.
His notes here say he arrived in March of 1946 in California, and he left for Bikini Island May of 1946 is when they headed for Bikini. He went to Hawaii and then from there over to Bikini.
Okay. And
That's where I picked up. I changed ships, and I had to go from one ship that I went to Hawaii on. Then I went on another ship to Bikini Island. When I got to Bikini Island, I was transferred onto the USS Bowditch.
And what kind of work did you do while you were on Bikini Island?
I was on Bikini Island. I worked as a deckhand. That's what they call it.
That's on the ship.
Yeah.
On Bikini, you were on the survey crew. You were building, and
I was on that ship, and when we got to the ship, we were helping. We were helping a crew well, there are other Navy guys. They were mostly like Seabees, and they were the construction people that we were helping them build towers on that island. That was, and the reason we were helping them build towers is because we were there to put cameras on those towers so we can take pictures of all our atomic bombs that we put off 2 bombs. The first bomb we dropped it from an airplane. And the second bomb was later,
3 weeks later,
the date,
25th.
and they put the bomb 90 feet deep in the water. And we exploded it then in the water. When we had to leave that area when this happened. And for both bombs, we were down. We had to leave that area and be out of the immediate place where the bomb went off. We went back that evening. We started back to ground zero where we were, and as we got closer, it got bad. I mean, the radiations was so bad that we had to head for another island somewhere because we were exposed to that radiation.
Not knowing, the Navy, not knowing what they were dealing with, they sent my father and other men onto that island with no protection immediately after the bomb, and they were exposed to the radiation. Some scientists were in suits, protected, but the Navy men were just sent on in their shorts and a t-shirt. And a lot of his crewmates are gone because of the radiation exposure.
When we got back to the island, I was a diver. I dove down into the water, and while I was in that water, I was supposed to gather up anything that I can get: seaweed, fish, anything in that water, and bring it up and give it to the scientists. And they took all kind of samples and everything of what we come up with, and see what radiation did to everything.
Did you get sick at all from it?
We didn't have any protection or anything. What they did, every morning, when we got together, and we were getting each crew had their own place in the morning, and we stood there in in our lineup in the morning, and they had Geiger counters. They come along and they were checking our body. They put the Geiger counters on us and screen us to see what the radiation was doing to us.
And did anything abnormal come up at that time?
And they never said, and they
never
did
told
just
them.
they
Never
they
really
kept
said.
their mouths shut and says, you ask them anything about it, we'll let you know later. You know.
A lot of the men later in their years developed different cancers from the exposure to the radiation. So he's been very fortunate. He only had one bout with it that we caught early.
So a lot of our guys, they did the radiation. They would check you out, and they'd take you aside and say, well, we're going to check you out again, and this and that, but everything's okay, you know. But to me, I don't think it was okay, because they wouldn't really tell us. And that was one bad thing we didn't like, and we didn't know for sure. So when we got up, and they checked us every day. They checked us out, and you didn't have to ask. We weren't allowed to ask any questions about it, because they didn't want us to get to the place where we were scared to death of the radiation.
When your ship sailed back to the United States, you said the ship was decommissioned and torn apart.
When we
California?
when we come back, we left the islands. We got back to California, and we couldn't take. We had some boats and stuff that we used on that water over there, and what we did was some of our boats we had, they're the small boats, we sprayed them with gasoline, and then we shot at them with flares, and we burned them ships up. We weren't allowed to bring them back to the United States. Those are the small work boats that we had. But we did bring our own ship back to the United States, and it was when we got back to California, they put it in dry dock, and they scrubbed that ship from head to toe, you know, to get all the barnacles off of it, and any radioactive material or anything. We got that done in California, and then when we were heading back to the East Coast, we went down through the Panama Canal, and as we went through the Panama Canal, our ship broke down. We had trouble with some of our motors, and so we ended up staying over there in Panama until we got our motors working, and we went back to all the way back to Virginia, and we only went there to put one engine. It was a laugh, I'll tell you, but the ship was pretty well. It was an old ship, and so we took that ship, and they took it into dry dock and cleaned it up as the best they could, and then they decided to demolish that ship completely.
Now that was the USS D'Amato, right?
Yeah.
The D'Amato, they decommissioned it and then...
We decommissioned it, and we were not allowed. We worked on it and decommissioned that ship, and then they put us over in Portsmouth, Virginia, is where they send us. It's this town right close, and we ended up leaving the ship, and while we stayed in Portsmouth, Virginia, in some of the barracks there until we got a new we were getting ready to go and get another ship or what they call
reassigned.
Reassigned, that's right. Well, I finally, it was my turn to be called in for reassignment, and they did one thing for me. They took me in, and they wanted me to be, I was supposed to, how can I say that? President Truman has a yacht, and they wanted me to go and be on President Truman's yacht, and I told him I would like to do it, but I wanted to be with the rest of my crew who was assigned to a destroyer.
Mm-hmm. He declined it because
and I declined that. I turned him down. I hated to do it, but I wanted to be with my regular crew, most of my crew that was sent to a destroyer. And that was great for me because a destroyer was there's a destroyer. You can see that? I can't.
put it under the edge of the book here.
That boat was fairly new, and I got to be with some of my own crew members, which to me was better than going being, Truman, all the dignitaries and everybody, that wasn't me. I wanted to be with my own crew, and I stayed with my some of my shipmates until I got out, and until I had I left the service. My time was up.
Your discharge in October of 1947.
So
The notes say here.
So, can you tell me about what your reaction was like when you heard of the atomic bombs going off in Japan and knew that the tests that you ran in Bikini Island before that were successful in helping win the war?
about the war.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is, when the bomb that we were testing was the same bomb that we dropped on Hiroshima, and we had another one to go over to Nagasaki. When we dropped that bomb on Hiroshima, it killed, they say it killed 142,000 people instantly. That scared the daylights out of me. That's how wicked that bomb is. And so, when we did that, Japan finally said, "That's it. We've had it." That scared them right there.
Yeah, they surrendered.
They surrendered.
After you were discharged in October, what did you do? Did you come back to Butler, or?
I come back to Butler, and it was not too long after I got back to Butler. I got a job at Armco Steel.
And how long were you there?
How long was I there?
Mm-hmm.
42 years I spent at Armco.
And during that time, you met your wife, I'm assuming?
I got married
1950.
1950.
Yeah, September.
That was that girl right there. I married her, and what I did is, how I met her is when I got back from the Navy. I didn't finish high school, so I decided that I was going to finish high school. So I went back to finish high school, and that's when I sat right behind my future wife. And we got hit it off pretty good, and then we ended up getting married.
And what was her name?
Hmm?
What was her name?
Her name was Jean.
Jean?
Jean. Bachman. Baughman.
And how many children did you have?
I have 3. One here, another girl, and one boy, John. Paulie, John, and Patty.
Was there anything memorable or difficult about coming back after serving in the Navy?
Well, I'll tell you, it was we had reunions every year. After we got out, and those were the great times when we all got together. That was the good part. And we did that for years until we could not do it anymore because a lot of our crew members passed away. So we quit having reunions because we couldn't get enough people to come to the reunions because they were dying off left and right. Fortunately, there was 2 of us that survived. To this day, there's just 2 of us
That you know of.
that I know of that are still living, and I am in touch with this one person, and he's down in North Carolina, yeah, and I keep in touch with him. Now he's a couple of years older than me, so far he's still living, and I'm still living. So we're the only 2 from our original crew that survived.
About how big was the original crew?
I'd say I had a whole list. I had a whole list of names.
I have no idea how big your crew was.
We had a good crew. I have the names of all of them, and
Dad, I'd have to look for it for your crew reunion.
Oh well.
I'm not sure.
I have. I can go and find their names. There's a whole list of them.
That's okay. Was it closer to like 20, 30, 50?
There was at least 50.
Okay.
When you were asking the other question about, when he got home, if there's things difficult, they had to sign agreements, it was considered classified.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't really allowed to talk about anything when they got home about what they participated in. That's why he just put it behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, when the information became public, then they weren't allowed to talk about it.
Do you know how long it was until it became public?
Several years. I can't tell you when though. It was several years.
Is there anything that really sticks out to you about the work that you did in Bikini Island, or was it just kind of felt like an everyday thing, just doing
On the island?
Mm-hmm.
When we were on the island?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were the last ship that left that island. After all them other ships that were there, we had many ships there, and when we left that island, we went back to Hawaii on the way back, and we it took some of us off our ship, and they was going to transfer us and leave us in Hawaii to be working in some of the shipyards there. Even though we're Navy guys, we were taken off our ship, and we were going to be transferred onto the island. And when we got all our gear ready, we stood there on the dock, and our captain, he come over to us and he says, "Get back on that ship. You're not leaving. You're not leaving." He says he wanted us to stick together. And that's how we come back to the States. And we stayed with our ship until we decommissioned our ship. So our captain, he really took care of us. He didn't want us to leave.
So this article is running as a part of a special section for Memorial Day. Is there anything that you do every Memorial Day in memory of what you did in the Navy, or is it just kind of
He
another
always
day?
goes to the parade and honors the veterans. He always goes to the parade.
And I go and get my picture, and that guy right there. That picture
The
is.
family always honors him in the Butler Eagle. We always put an honor thing in for him in the paper.
So I look forward to seeing that picture. That guy right there, or that one there.
It's been many decades, obviously, since you were in the Navy. Do you still think about it on Memorial Day?
Well, every so often, I just said, boy, I was lucky. I served my time there, and I enjoyed every bit of it. Because we had some good guys in our crew, and when we had our reunions, it was a get together with them until they all kept dying off, and so we had to quit having reunions.
Just one more thing. You mentioned that you had cancer. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Was it directly from the radiation, did the doctor say?
They would not go as far to say that, but it was bladder cancer, and it was one of the cancers included in the radioactive, list of cancers that people had been showing up with. Yes.
Okay. And when was that?
That was 5 years ago, but we caught it early, and it's in remission. We're very, very fortunate we caught it early.
Great.
He goes back every 4 to 6 months and gets checked and tested, and so far, no reoccurrence.
That's great.
And in the meantime, I became a member of the
The VA. Yeah, he goes out to
veterans
the VA.
veterans hospital, and
They're really good to him.
they really take good care of me.
Yeah.
And did you do that after you got cancer, or were you a member beforehand?
It was right after.
Yeah.
It was right after we applied.
Yeah. So, like I say, I'm still going.